We are visiting Baltimore Lithuanian Hall, and we speak with Bernie Karper, Bernardas Karpavičius, who is actually a son of a person who participated in the establishment of this Lithuanian Hall. And this happened almost as long ago as the Republic of Lithuania exists, so in 1921. So could you tell me more about the story of the Lithuanian Hall here?
As a youngster, literally, I grew up here. My father was present during the opening ceremonies of Lithuanian Hall. I believe it was about the year 1920, and he was probably about 19 or 20 years old himself. So it was very reminiscent and very nostalgic to come back to this dear building after all these many years. I must say that I'm no stranger to this building. I have been coming here almost at least once or twice a year throughout my entire life. And somebody says to me, have you seen any changes? And I say, well, yeah, everything has changed. For example, just this room where we're sitting. Where we are right now used to be a bowling alley. And actually, we're sitting in the bleacher seats at one end of the bowling alley. And now, 100 years later, it's been remodeled into a nice little bistro. And actually, we're in a room where there's a pool table where you can enjoy a game of pool and relax.
So we are now in the basement of the Lithuanian Hall building, and indeed there's a bar here. It works every Friday, usually. And on the second floor there is a massive Lithuanian Hall with an especially impressive interior that predates actually occupation of Lithuania, and many such interiors in Lithuania itself were destroyed by the Soviets at the time. And here in Baltimore, it was impressive for us to find out that it remains. And the top floor has a Lithuanian museum. So what are the most interesting memories of you related to this Lithuanian Hall, maybe in your youth or maybe even in the recent years?
Lithuanian Hall has been a center of culture enjoyment, also a place where you can learn about your ancestry, what your forefathers did, and participate with the entire family in a social experience. For example, as youngsters, there were dance groups. We learned some of the dances in Catholic elementary school at St. Alphonsus and had the opportunity to use those dances at Lithuanian Hall. We learned about the cooking and the culture here and the cuisine of Lithuania here, but also had the opportunity to enjoy it at school dinners and dances that were held at St. Alphonsus. So it's been a complete union of all your social interactions with your friends. And we have Lithuanian friends, we have Lithuanian American friends, and we have American friends. All of us, all these groups have enjoyed this facility. We've been able to come here for many happy occasions, celebrated a wedding reception of my sister here, had opportunity to attend commemoration ceremonies of different events in our Lithuanian American community. For example, Lithuanian Independence Day. Before the establishment of the Lithuanian nation in 1991, again as an independent country, we celebrated Lithuanian Independence Day on February the 16th, while the government of Lithuania was in exile because Lithuania was a member of the Soviet Union. And we were rejoiced when the Soviet Union broke up and Lithuania declared her independence again in 1991. So it's been through an organization like the Lithuanian Hall Association that we've been able to integrate our American cultural activities with the cultural activities of the Lithuanian people.
I am very glad to hear that, as much as I am glad to visit it here today. And I think that every Lithuanian who comes to Baltimore should visit, when possible, the Lithuanian Museum here to see the Lithuanian history as it was seen here from Baltimore, to see the materials that were used by Lithuanians in protests against the Soviet regime. The protests that happened in Washington, D.C. So in order they try to get American support, government support in that struggle. And it is indeed impressive to see that this building survived so many years. And how did it change over time? I mean, at one time, I think this was considered a very bad district. Then it became a little bit better again. And how did the people who used the hall change at the time?
At one time, this was a very, very fine district because Winans and Garrett, who built the Russian railroad, had homes in this region. Winans' estate was called Alexandrovsky, and roughly speaking, it existed just across the street from Lithuanian Hall. But during the early 1900s, Alexandrovsky was demolished. Homes and residences were built along Holland Street, and this became the center of a Lithuanian community. And at one time, there were probably 4,000 or 5,000 Lithuanian people living in the city of Baltimore. Keep in mind, at that time, the city population was probably around 400,000. But as the city grew, the Lithuanian community expanded, and it expanded westward as far as 14 Holy Martyrs Church, which is about 2 miles to the west of this location. And then as the city lost its economic powerhouse, the Fortune 500 companies moved from the city of Baltimore around the end of the 1950s. The population of the city decreased, and the Lithuanian community, like the other communities, migrated to the suburbs. And through the early 60s, there was a decrease in interest in this area and the building. But as the third wave of immigrants from Eastern Europe came, interest again was piqued, and improvements took place in the building, modernization, update, for example, installation of air conditioning systems, update the electrical systems, updating the heating system, and the installation of a modern kitchen with banquet-capable facilities. We're on the uptick again, and then during the early 2000s, there was a slight decrease, but again, immigration sources revitalized interest in the cultural development of the area, and people again took interest in, we call it the hall, and it has reemerged, and now it's recognized as a community center with accessibility to everybody who is interested to attend and come to functions at the Lithuanian Hall.
Thank you very much for sharing this story with us, and I hope Lithuanian Hall continues for another 100 of years. So it has just celebrated its centenary. And this Lithuanian Hall, as well as the other Lithuanian sites in the city of Baltimore and beyond, are marked in the Destination Lithuanian America map online at map.lithuania.com and described in the Encyclopedia of Lithuanian Heritage Sites Abroad at global.lithuania.com. So I encourage you to see and read for yourselves and see all the impressive images and videos from this hall on this YouTube channel.